Alright, welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over the Renin Angiotensin Aldosterone mechanism, or RAAS, but it's easy. Can you believe it? What? How can it be easy? Trust me, it is. This mechanism is all about memorization, okay? It's my favorite mechanism to teach. It's super interesting, and there are a lot of surprise aspects to it that you might actually find interesting as well. Now, before I start, there's something I want to say. So if you're in a university that does like a quarter system, so every class is a duration of 3 months compared to our semester system, which is usually like 6 months, this would be the end of physiology. So human physiology would end here. Okay, I'll probably like one more video and then it'll be over. Now, if you're in a semester system, you do the entire thing of physiology, okay? So I'm not going to stop. I want to keep going and do the digestive system, respiratory system, lymph system, immune system. We all have all the other systems to do. But if you're in a normal, not normal, but like a 3-month physiology course, you would end at the kidney, okay? But trust me, I'm not going to stop, okay? Now, the last subject topic I teach for physiology would be human reproduction. Now, human reproduction is its own course. There is so much to human reproductive physiology. I will make a whole new course just for that, and it'll be another whole like 50 videos or something, or 40 videos or whatever, okay? So I'm not going anywhere, but that's just I want to tell you that, okay? So the Renin Angiotensin Aldosterone mechanism, also known as RAAS. What is it? So it is your body's mechanism to counter low blood pressure. So say if you have really low blood pressure due to a hemorrhage, for example, okay? So say you're bleeding out, right? If you bleed out, there's blood, you have blood loss, which causes your blood pressure to lower, right? So this is when the Renin Angiotensin Aldosterone mechanism takes place, okay? As well as if you're like dehydrated, the Renin Angiotensin Aldosterone mechanism kicks in. So the whole point of this mechanism is to increase your blood pressure, okay? So whenever you have low blood pressure or dehydrated, there's basically alarms that go off in your brain. Like, okay? So it's basically saying you have low blood pressure, we need to do something to raise it. Otherwise, we're gonna be in a lot of trouble, okay? How does it work? So the first step to the Renin Angiotensin Aldosterone mechanism is when you get that signal for low blood pressure or dehydration, the kidney is going to secrete something called renin, okay? Now, at the same exact time, your liver is going to produce something called angiotensinogen. Angiotensinogen is inactive. So if you ever see the suffix ogen, so this ogen right here, this means inactive. When we go over the digestive system, for example, we're going to go over something called pepsinogen. Pepsinogen, ogen, is inactive form of pepsin. Okay, so whenever you see anything in biochemistry or physiology with ogen, it's inactive. Now, what's going to happen is renin and angiotensinogen are going to combine. They're going to fuse together, and it's going to create something called angiotensin I. Okay? Angiotensin I doesn't do anything. Okay? It's not ready yet. It's still kind of inactive. It is active, but it's not really doing anything. Now, here's the really, really cool part. We need to convert angiotensin I into angiotensin II. Now, we're going to do that with an enzyme. The enzyme is called angiotensin converting enzyme, or ACE. And the super cool thing about this, it's produced in the lungs. You would never think your lungs produce enzymes, but they do. This is one of the enzymes it can actually produce, angiotensin converting enzyme. It's from the lungs, okay? Now, sometimes I like to basically give like a shout out to one of my friends, my close friends. I have a close friend, her name is Annette. When Annette was learning this Renin Angiotensin Aldosterone mechanism, she found it super, super surprising that ACE is made in the lungs. I was like, yeah, believe it, it is. Really proud of her. She's doing like vet stuff. She graduated from Davis and now working with animals, and I'm really proud of her. So if you're watching this, I love you. So now we have angiotensin II. Now, angiotensin II can do a bunch of things. This is the active thing. This is the thing we care about, okay? Now, if you're in, say, medical school, you will learn about angiotensin III and angiotensin IV. There's not enough research on that, particularly right now, like as in 2024, May what is the date? May 20th, 2024. Not enough research on angiotensin 3 and angiotensin 4, but it does exist. We do see it. Not important whatsoever for what we're learning here. You'll never be if you're in a physiology course, you'll never be tested on angiotensin 3 or angiotensin 4. There's not enough research. But just as a little background information, what we know right now is angiotensin 3 breaks down angiotensin 2. Don't worry about that. Not important, okay? So here's what angiotensin 2 is going to do. It's going to do 3 different things. One, it's going to go to the brain, specifically the hypothalamus, and release ADH. We went over ADH in the last video. ADH puts aquaporins into the collecting duct and the DCT to basically get more water reabsorption. We're going to take water from what would be the tubular fluid of the kidney or the nephron and put it back into our blood vessels, right? We're shoving water back into our blood vessels to increase the blood volume, which increases blood pressure. Makes sense, right? This will also trigger thirst. You will get thirsty when this happens. This is why when you, for example, if you are bleeding, like really, I've never experienced this, but if you ever see like in movies or something, when people are bleeding out, they get like a dry mouth. This is the reason why. They're getting dry mouth because they're like, okay, we're thirsty, we need to drink. And when you drink water, it gets absorbed and goes in the blood vessels to increase blood volume. It makes sense, right? Now, aldosterone. Aldosterone, we went over in the last video as well. Aldosterone is the salt-retaining hormone, okay? It's going to keep salt into the blood vessels, right? We don't want it to leave, right? Because we need more fluid, we need more concentration, more stuff in our blood vessels, whatever it is, ions, minerals, whatever. But in this case, it's salt, sodium. If you need a review on aldosterone, please watch my last video. I went over it very nicely. But aldosterone is the salt-retaining hormone. It's made by the adrenal cortex. So your adrenal glands actually sit on top of the kidney. They rest on top of the kidney. The adrenal gland is made up of 2 components, the cortex, which is the outside, and the medulla, which is the inside of the adrenal gland. Aldosterone is made on the cortex, so the outside layer of the adrenal gland, and it gets secreted. And this will basically help us retain salt. The last thing we're going to do is something called vasoconstriction. So think about a hose, okay? So like a gardening hose, for example, and you put water, you run the water through the hose and you're spraying your plants, right? If you were to make the hose bigger, right, the water pressure would decrease, and that would not be a good thing, right? Less water will be coming out of the hose, and we would, less water would basically affect the plants. Well, what we're going to do is vasoconstriction, right? So if we were to tighten that gardening hose, it would increase the pressure and more water will be rushing out. This is the exact same concept, right? Our blood vessels will constrict to increase our blood pressure, right? Because our goal is to increase our blood pressure, okay? We're going to do vasoconstriction of our non-essential. I mean, all organs are essential, but the more non-essential ones, like our digestive system, right? Just to be clear, there is no vasoconstriction in your brain. Why do you think so? Our brain is actually very, very smart. Whenever you're in life-threatening circumstances, it will do anything possible to put more blood into our brain. We never vasoconstrict our blood vessels in the brain. That'll be a really bad thing. Why would we want to reduce the blood flow to our brain? We would pass out, we would die. There's so many other bad things that would happen. So no matter what will happen, if you are struggling to stay alive and basically all your organs shut down, your brain will still be the last thing that's active. Okay? So people can be, the heart can stop, but their brain can still be working. This is the same concept, right? Your body tries to do everything humanly possible to keep your brain functioning. It will literally shut off all the organs besides the brain if it means survival. Now, obviously, that does not mean you'll probably survive if your heart stops. But it's the concept, right? Your brain does everything possible to keep it alive, right? So we never affect blood flow in the brain. Everywhere else is fine. right? Your brain will sacrifice all the other organs, but it'll never sacrifice itself, okay? Kind of funny. So vasoconstriction of all the non-essential organs, right? Do you need your reproductive glands if you're bleeding out? Well, hopefully not. Reproductive glands, organs. Right, so vasoconstriction of those non-essential organs. And yeah, that's it. That's the renin angiotensin aldosterone mechanism, or RAAS. Let's just go over it again just to make sure. So when you have low blood pressure, our alarms go off in the body. You know, we need to get our blood pressure raised, right? Your kidneys are going to secrete renin. At the same time, your liver is going to secrete something called angiotensinogen, which is inactive. It's going to create angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1 is useless. It doesn't do anything. Even though it's not inactive, it doesn't do anything. Okay, it can't bind to anywhere. So we're going to take something called angiotensin converting enzyme, which is secreted from the lungs, and it's going to merge with angiotensin 1 and create angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 is going to do 3 things. It's going to go to the hypothalamus, secrete ADH, so we can get more water into our blood vessels. It's also going to make us thirsty. Then we're going to get aldosterone secretion from the adrenal cortex, right, which sit on top of the kidneys. The adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. This will help us retain salt, sodium retention, to up our blood pressure in our vessels. We're also going to do vasoconstriction of non-essential organs. And that is it. That's the renin angiotensin aldosterone mechanism. See, it's super interesting, right? You would never think like your lungs would do this, right? That's it. So if you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. Until next time, later.